Here in Washington, all the focus is on Russia or DACA or plans to regulate guns. Meanwhile, though, the country Washington rules seems to be hollowing out. And if you don't believe it, take a drive. We want to show you jarring footage recorded just last month in Orange County, California, famously one of this country's richest counties. The footage shows one of the vast homeless encampments that have become increasingly routine in Southern California. Watch this. It goes on like that for miles, literally for miles. And that's not the only place in America where you can find it. It's all over the country. Almost 12,000 homeless people live in Seattle, most of them without shelter. L.A. County has close to 60,000 homeless people. Drive around. If you haven't been there recently, do so. You'll be shocked. Increasingly, many communities in this country don't just look like slums. They're literally becoming slums. I'm not overstating that. An NBC Bay Area investigation in the city of San Francisco, one of the richest cities in the world, surveyed 153 blocks in downtown San Francisco. They found trash littering every single block. 41 blocks had hypodermic needles on the ground. 96 had piles of human feces. We could go on. It's repulsive. Trash, drugs, garbage, the homeless. That is daily life in America's richest big cities, uniformly run by progressives. Their agenda of mass immigration, sanctuary cities, and defang police was supposed to make everyone prosperous, to create paradise. That hasn't happened. A lot of our greatest cities increasingly look like Port-au-Prince. It's awful, and nobody mentions it. Congressman Tim Ryan is a Democrat representing Ohio, and to his great credit, he's embarking on a cross-country comeback cities tour to promote investment in struggling American cities. Congressman Ryan joins us tonight. Congressman, so you and I have disagreed on a lot. Last time you were on, we got in a shouting match. But I have to say, I'm impressed. No, I mean, with sincerity, I'm impressed that you're doing this. I want to hear about it. I think our viewers will, too, because you're one of the few people in the Congress who seems to actually notice what's happening in the country. So tell us what you're doing to make it better.
Appreciate that, Tucker. Yeah, thanks. I always have fun being on with you. You know, we have about 80% of venture capital money in the United States goes to 3 states. It goes to California, New York, and Massachusetts. About 10% of it goes to women, less than 2% goes to Hispanics, and less than 2% go to African Americans. What we're trying to do starting tomorrow is a comeback cities tour that starts in Youngstown, Ohio. We are bringing 12 venture capitalists, some of the biggest in the country, that invest into Airbnb and Uber and Spotify and all of the big companies. We're bringing them to Youngstown. We're going to get on a bus, and we're going to go to Akron, Ohio, Detroit and Flint, Michigan, South Bend, Indiana, and we're going to start putting these venture capitalists in the room with emerging companies and emerging communities to try to reconnect and rebuild some of the industrial Midwest in the South.
Good for you. I've got 2 ideas I want to run by you. The first is simple. So huge American charitable foundations, Gates Foundation, Rockefeller Foundation, send a lot of their money abroad because the idea is the rest of the world needs it more than we do. Do you think it would be worth encouraging them to turn their sights domestically and maybe use some of that money, since it's tax-free, to help American cities?
Absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of their money that they invest globally is very important because we do want to prevent disease and we do want to lift people up and get people out of poverty. A lot of that money is very, very important. But we are trying to build a kind of a new way of doing this using public-private partnerships. So in Washington right now, you either think the government is the problem or you think the government is the solution, and it's an either-or, when the reality of it is it's kind of a balance in the middle. It's, okay, what can the government do properly, efficiently, effectively? What investments can they make in the communities, community development block grants, parks, bike trails, river walks, the kind of infrastructure that you need. But at the end of the day, the government can't hire everybody, so you need that private sector investment to create the jobs. And this tour is about really trying to figure out how to strike that balance.
So here's something the government could do really quickly that would help, is to move a lot of the government agencies to the states. Why isn't the Transportation Department in Detroit, or the Interior Department in Bozeman. I mean, you could sort of go down the list. Why are they all here, which is the richest metro area in the country or the world? Why not do that?
Yeah, well, you know, I actually have a bill that puts a commission together to look at exactly what agencies you could move out of Washington, D.C. and into the heartland or into the South or into communities that need it. There are 300,000 federal employees that work in Washington, D.C. Just think if you could get 100,000 of those out of D.C., you could put 1,000 federal jobs in 100 communities, or you could put 500 federal jobs into 200 different communities, into Youngstown, Gary, Indiana, Biloxi, Mississippi, and really begin to rebuild and heal some of these communities. You could make them go into the downtown distressed communities. Now you're starting to build out your tax base for both your schools and your income tax. And there's really a lot of economic development tools you could use too. With the increase in taxes, that local community can then float bonds. It's called TIFs, tax increment financing. And then they can take the money and build out the public space with the new revenue. It's a win-win-win. Plus you get federal employees who make $60,000 or $70,000 a year, which is a heck of a lot more money in a place like Youngstown, Ohio, than it is in, well, whatever the case may be, it's a lot more in a place like Gary, Indiana, or Akron than it is in Washington, D.C.,
well, I
where
hope you
can
get that
barely
done,
make ends meet.
Thank you. Thank you for that, and Godspeed on that part of the program.
Appreciate it, Tucker.
Good to see you. The war in Afghanistan has lasted more than 4 times as long as America's involvement in World War II. Have we won? Is there any hope for getting out? Blackwater founder Erik Prince is here with the latest from Afghanistan. Stay tuned.